Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Dr. Glenvo, and I am super excited to have, I would say, one of the up and coming stars. Heck, he is the stars when it comes to clear aligners. Before we get into this next episode, I'd like to give a shout out to one of our sponsors, MVP Mailhouse. Now, mailers have been around for a long time, but not any company can do direct mail for dental practices the way MVP Mailhouse does it. Check them out. Make sure you ask for a Nifty Thrifty deal. I've been using them for years, and you won't be disappointed. He is your clear aligner advisor, Dr. Avi Patel. Avi, what's up, man?
Not much. Thanks for having me. I'm super pumped to be on, and yeah, I appreciate I appreciate the intro.
Well, hey, man. I mean, it is the truth, man. And here's the thing. I mean, look, number one, you have just an amazing content that you put out there. So for anyone who's watching right now, and you're like, okay, who is this dude? All you gotta do is go onto YouTube and type his name. You're gonna land on his cool channel. But again, if you're on social media, he has just a lot of content. And I always love it when people who are, they give freely, right? They have an abundance mindset. You give out so much, I mean, not just clear aligner information, but just life in general, being a young dentist, going through dental, I mean, whatever it is, you give so much value there. And so I want to start with that, man. I mean, why, there's so many other people out there that do something very similar. And they're always, I say they're behind this like paywall, right? It's like, hey, I got some good stuff, man, but you got to do this to get to it. But you give so freely there. And honestly, some of the stuff that you give away, you probably could charge, man. So let's just start with that, man. Is that something just philosophically that's what you believe in, or tell us about that? Why do you give so much information freely to all us dentists?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I think for me, it's more of like I'm a learner at the end of the day. So everything that I've done, to get to this point has been from some form of learning. I think everyone can say that for the most part, right? But it's whether it's experience of trial and error or actually learning from other people. And, for me, when I was learning and going into this process of having a program, educating docs, all that stuff, when I first started out, I was basically doing consulting, like one-on-one coaching with docs in person. And so at the time, I didn't want to have to spend money on marketing. And so I was like, cool, like what is a way to just like market for free? And so at the time, my mom put me on Grant Cardone's 10X rule book, which just totally opened my eyes to just taking massive action. I started to really dive into the idea of like omnipresence and all that. And so the biggest thing is like, show up in places, but when you show up, like give value. And so I think I was just in an open abundance mindset. I'm like, all right, this guy seems to know what he's talking about. Other people have said use social media. So I was like, let's just do it. Let's try it. So that's what I started doing. Man. And then I found that, when nobody knows who you are, and nobody knows what you do or anything, if you just, instead of telling them about all the things you do and how you do it, if you just give it to them, that tends to resonate better. And for me, one of my goals is just making aligner education accessible, right? So to that, it's like, I feel good giving in a way where someone can watch all my stuff and learn for free, or someone can go the route of investing and, investing in themselves in education, and they get, a little bit different of an approach. But yeah, I mean, I also just appreciate all the other people. 'Cause I didn't just wake up knowing how to use Instagram and make reels and content and all that. I learned a lot of this stuff from like for free. And I also like it 'cause it's like a preview, right? I know we haven't met in person, but we have obviously talked before this. You've seen my content, and I think you said it, and some other people have said it, where they're just like, hey man, like you're like the same guy, like from on camera and to kind of conversation. And so I use it as a way for people to kind of just get to know me, and if they, if they vibe with me and my style, then that's going to carry over to everything else that we work on.
Man, there's so many things that we can add on to what you just said there, right? I mean, down to offering another pathway of learning clear aligners, right? Like, I mean, you don't, and I'll say this kind of tongue in cheek, but like, you literally don't have to join a clear aligner cult to know how to do it right, right? But we'll put that aside. But I want to focus on one thing that you said. You literally just in your answer, we kind of stumbled in a marketing kind of technique that practice owners can employ themselves. Really, I mean, again, think about it. Whenever we research, like let's say a physician or something, right? Maybe we have like, whether it's like a dermatologist or an orthopedic surgeon, heck, or even a plastic surgeon. What do? We're just like consumers as well. We go look at the reviews. We go to their social media. We'll see how they are. We try to figure out their personality. Am I vibing with this person? Well, you literally just gave us like a blueprint for every practice owner. I mean, they literally could employ what you do right there to grow their own practices, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the thing is like, because I've learned marketing for this business, right, in this platform, it's like, it's opened my eyes. I'm just like, well, why can't dentists do this for their practices? And it's not like there's some huge media production that's going on. It's like, you have to show the authentic stuff. Like everybody says it, like be real, be authentic. But I think that's honestly where a lot of dentists get tripped up because being authentic is kind of scary. Like being your true self and putting it out there is kind of scary. Like I think a lot of dentists, I know I suffered from it. It was just like, I wasn't necessarily proud of like my workplace, right? Or I wasn't proud of the way like the chairs looked. And so it's like, that was the thing, but it's like, dude, nobody cares that much. It's more of like, just show people what
they want to know who you are.
That's it.
Yeah.
And so I think, if you have that belief in yourself first, you get over that hump, which is a whole podcast segment in itself. The rest of it though, you just share that. And I think people can feel the authenticity, and then that's how you're going to attract more of those patients, and people, right? It can even be team members. Like you'll find hygienists and assistants like reaching out saying, man, this looks like a really fun office. I like the vibe here. I would love to work here. Or my friend I have a friend who would, who's in your area who could work there. Like the possibilities are endless.
Yeah. Well, and just kind of piggyback on the fact of believing in yourself. I think a lot of times when we talk about clear aligners and people talk about Invisalign and all the other companies that you can work with and all the different continuums. Heck, you can join a clear aligner cult if you want to. Again, tongue-in-cheek comment there for those who do clear aligners. They're gonna have a little chuckle when I say that. But again, there's a lot of doctors out there who they feel like, man, I don't know. I took like a level 1 intro Invisalign course and I paid my money and did a case. I didn't like it. I bought an Atero and I didn't like it. It wasn't as easy. For those who have tried, right? It's one thing for, and again, dentists, we get sold on new things all the time. And everyone, there's like a graveyard of people trying to do a new procedure and never take off. Whether it's clear aligners, whether it's implants, whether it's surgery, right? There's a literal graveyard of like people who bought a bunch of stuff and it's just sitting there as like a new coat hanger for themselves, right?
Yep, coat hanger.
So for those doctors who are like, dude, man, I tried, I did a couple of cases, or the person who's like, my friend tried and they're like, just stick to your lane. For those who are having that thought, what do you say to them, man?
Yeah, so those are two different hats, right? I think let's talk about the friend one and then we'll go to the other one.
Yeah.
If your friend told you that something didn't work for them and you're taking that as like the biblical truth or whatever faith religion you believe in, like that's a problem because they are their own individual and they have their own abilities and you're different. This comes back to what we said, believing in yourself. So unless that is like a carbon copy of you and they have every single experience and ability that you have, stop taking that advice because you're just limiting yourself, right? I'm sure you've fallen prey. I used to fall prey to it too. Literally one of the first doctors I worked with, coming out of school, he was basically just like, yeah, you know what? Like CE is a waste of money. They're just when you go to these local stuff, just like sign your name in and don't worry about it. Like the real world experience is how you're going to learn. And so I was just kind of like, what? Like, how does that make any sense? But I like listened to this guy because I respected him. And so I didn't actually go invest in CE my first year out of school. Granted, I had a wake up call and all that, but it's just like you cannot, like, and that's obviously like one example, but it's an extreme, because if you're looking at that and you're just like, well, why would you listen to that person? So why would you listen to your friend who told you that they had problems with clear aligners? Like, you don't know what kind of case they took on. You don't know what kind of patient they took. You don't know what kind of like philosophy or implementation that they were doing. So there's so many things. So my thing to that is like, if you're not currently doing it solely because someone else told you that they struggled with it or it's hard or you need to stay in your lane, I would just empower you to give it a try for yourself, and go down a lane where you can kind of start and take those first steps. And like, you have your own opinion about that.
A wise man once said that, why take advice from people who haven't been there before? You want to take advice from people who have been there, right? Yep. Again, that quote. There's a more of a vulgar like wording that's in that pretty much, but basically that's what it says, right? So pretty much, why would you take advice from someone who hasn't been somewhere? You should be taking advice from someone who's actually been there.
I've heard a variation of that, where it's just like
with some F-bombs in there, but like, but we're not gonna do that. This is a PG-13 show here, but yeah, so. But what about what about the
course thing?
What about the guy he did the intro, and it's so funny because I see this so much in the implant industry, right? You take a weekend course and voila, let's play some implants, and it goes sideways your first one, and they're like, what? You know what? It's not for me. They step away. So I'm sure you get that on this side, but like, you took the intro to the class that Align offers, and then you get stuck. What do you say to those people?
Yeah, so I think framing is important here, because when you I think there's a huge misconception. The Invisalign intro course the purpose of it is to teach you how to use their product. It's not to teach you how to do the procedure.
Right.
That's what it is. So it's as if you are going to, I'm trying to, like, if you're doing implants, right? And let's say you take a Straumann course, right? Straumann has their own implants, right? Their own, all the different,
and their own surgical kit,
their own kit, they're all that. Their course would be about the kit, the pieces, how they fit together, right? And how to kind of go through this sequence of burrs and all that stuff. And that's it. Sure. Implant industry is different from the aligner industry, where they could probably have continuums and placing it on patients and all that stuff, but that aligner education is not there. So, but that's what it is. It's essentially Invisalign's course is like, hey, let us teach you how to use our platform and how our material works. So that's why doctors, a lot of them they take it and then they walk away feeling exactly how you described earlier, where they're just like, man, like, I still don't know, or people like, oh, it's a marketing gimmick. Sure. It's a way for them to collect $3,000 from you off the bat before you even do a case, but that's their business model. And you know what? Like, cool. They're charging people to pay to play. But their promise is not like, hey, we're going to teach you guys how to be like proficient at offering clear aligners, and like, also here's our brand. That's not their job. Like, they're not an education, like they're not a school. They're not an education platform. They're a product driven business. And so like, that's where they're at. So that's like the first bit. So that's why if you've ever taken the certification course, like, that's why you don't feel competent or confident in offering the procedure, because you're supposed to learn that. Well, you don't learn it in dental school, but you're supposed to learn it somewhere. And so that's where, education, it's just in the clear aligner space, is not as robust as other procedures like endo, surgery, all that. And so this kind of plays into why I created what I created. But because when I first started out, like, I just could only learn from a mentor. And so part of the reason why I've been doing what I've been doing is so that way other people don't have to be stuck and lost in that, that area of just not knowing what they're doing.
Well, and big reason, obviously, I've been a big fan of yours, been following you for years with your content. And of course, we already talked about why I love your content and why it was so helpful and the fact that you give it so freely. But when we think about Nifty Thrifty, the community, right? Man, there's not anything niftier and thriftier than your course, okay? When it comes to comparing it to other continuums, right? Like literally, and again, tongue-in-cheek comment again, like you don't even have to join a cult, right? To be part of this and go every year and drink the cult Kool-Aid. But, not just that particular place. And again, for those who have done clear, you guys are probably laughing about that. But there's other continuums that are a significant investment, not only money. Let's just put money aside, okay? Everyone gets all tied up with money. I tell people, what's more important is your time, okay? Mm-hmm. Your time is so important. And when we talk about time, we're talking about travel, right? We're talking about like researching your travel accommodations, the time back and forth, the time you lose with your family, et cetera, et cetera. You have a online program. And so again, I think it's like the niftiest, thriftiest program out there because you get such great instruction for that price point. But naturally, you're going to have some detractors, right? Who are going to say, well, you know what? This guy's teaching it online, man. How much can you learn? What do you say to those skeptics? Because dentistry, other than, I would say skeptical is probably like almost synonymous with our profession, right? Like it's everyone wants to know, show me the studies.
Yeah.
Like show me the studies right now. Show me the proof, right? We love to do that. I'm sure you run into those things. And what do you say for those who are like, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. How's he going to teach me if I'm watching a bunch of videos? What do you say to them?
Yeah, I think, I love the skeptics because they're basically like the voice box of like the old age of the industry, right? It's like these are the people who are probably slow movers. They're not taking advantage of opportunity when it presents itself, and they're usually the people who are stuck. And so those are the people. Why? Those are usually the ones who actually want to really drown themselves in information and they want the 50 hours of information to kind of pour over them, and then they can bathe in it, and then they can just take all that information and then transfer it to the patient, and then they wonder why their case acceptance is so low because they're talking about torque and root movements that the patient really doesn't care about. So it's okay. And I feel for those people because I get it. Like that is what they have been trained to think that they need to have the confidence. But when it comes to learning something new, and this is where it goes back to what I was saying earlier. Like everybody has their style. Everybody has their different vibes. For me, I'm the type of person where I just tell me what I need to know so I can go do the thing. And then if I have questions, I would just appreciate if someone could support me, right? That kind of mentor relationship in that regard. And so that's where I've come down or with this, which is like, it's taking this procedure that general dentists have little to no information about, right? You're barely educated. And then condensing it to the point where it's only focusing on simple, predictable cases, simple, predictable movements, and then offering it in a very simple and predictable way. Like that's why you don't need 50 hours to learn this thing. I took all the fluff out. I'm not selling you, a laundry list of other supplies and armamentarium like how implant courses and all that stuff do. Like I'm just giving you the facts. I'm sharing cases so that way you can kind of see how it's applied, right, with the protocols. And anybody who tells you that they have like a hands-on aligner course, there's really nothing hands-on about this procedure. So it's like, unless everyone's getting a laptop and you're hands-on doing, clean checks and treatment plan modifications, there is no such thing as a hands-on aligner course because the only hands-on thing you're doing is like, bonding some composite in a tray. And I'm sorry, but if you're a dentist and you're listening to this and you need a course on how to put composite into a plastic well and put it on a tooth and hit it with composite,
you got other problems.
You got other problems, right? You know, and IPR, I get it. IPR is its own thing, but at the end of the day, IPR is polishing between the teeth, right? And so you're doing far more extensive stuff every day when you're cutting crowns and you know and doing your class 2s and all that, but at the end of the day, I like simplicity. I like people who are straight to the point, and that's what I deliver. And I get it. What my style is not for everybody, but it is for some. Like Dr. Kevin, he got into my program about a year ago, and he'd taken other online programs. He took another big Invisalign online program that's out there. That a lot of people really like, but he was like, dude, I don't have time to go through 50 modules. He's like, he felt like he was drinking from a fire hose. And so he never actually started that many cases afterwards because he was so overwhelmed by the info. And he literally said to me, he was just like, I loved your program because it was to the point. I could come back and refer to the videos whenever I had questions. I didn't have to dig through like, oh, which chapter or module was it in? He's just like, you've got it all lined out. I could click on it, watch it, grab the info that I needed, and then get back to it. And that's it. Like, that's my goal, is I'm just trying to help docs get started and get the ball rolling. And the ones who are already doing cases, but you're really not sure what's going on, like, I made it for you too. There's just a lot more dentists out there who have never done a case. So that's where I kind of focus my messaging. But I see you, you know, docs who are doing 2 to 3 cases a month because your patients are asking for it, but you're kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing. That's why I built this.
I love it, man. I love it. And again, you know, look, every dentist is different. And here's the thing. I mean, with the way technology is, you know, I think a lot of dentists prefer to do things online. I mean, that's why whenever there's an event, people are always asking, is there a virtual option, right? Because, you know, spending that time to travel, I mean, that's a real commitment. That's a real commitment that now a lot of people, they don't want to make that commitment. They much rather just learn from the comfort of their home, DM somebody, message them, email them, get all the information. So I love that. And I love the fact that you have this particular program because all the other programs require such a commitment. We're not even talking about the money. We're putting that aside. We're talking about the time commitment and the travel and all those things. So I love the fact that you have this here. Now, for those who are watching and they are like, okay, I like it.
One more piece onto the commitment part too. Those are the hidden costs, right? Those are the hidden costs that nobody talks about. You're shutting your practice down. You're not making any money those days. So, I mean, take how much you produce in a day and add that on to the financial investment. But time-wise, you know, it's because here's the thing: is you're spending that time away, but then you're also spending the time to come home, and it's even harder to implement because you're usually just going off of your notes, right? You get a printout of the slides that they give you, and the slides are pretty bare. And you've got this little journal with your chicken scratch notes that, you know, hour 5 on day 2, you stopped writing notes because you were tired. Because like, I don't know. I don't know too many dentists who are really good at taking notes. So it's just a it's some people enjoy it because they're like, oh, I love the in-person connection, all that stuff. I get it. But like, if you want in-person connection, like there's other ways to meet people versus like shelling out, you know, all this money to go in person to learn about a procedure. And there's more, I think the key thing is there's more effective ways to learn. Because if the goal is you want to learn a procedure and implement it, in my opinion, online is the best because you get the information that you can consume on your time at your speed. And then when you go to implement it, you can refer back to it.
And you can, and instead of like being scared to raise your hand in the lecture hall and say, hey, I have a question here. Like literally you can like, let me just rewind this part here, or heck, why don't I just send a message the instructor, right? Yeah. Without anyone wondering if you had asked a dumb question or anything like that. And again, I love it, and it's just I mean, it's getting with the times, right? Like it's getting with the times, and that's true. You're saying like, look, if you want to have an in-person connection, there's so many more fun things you can do. Trust me, you can definitely do more fun things than sit in a lecture hall and just can't. And let's be honest, when you're sitting in the lecture hall, you're already thinking like, dude, what am I gonna go eat later? Like literally, that's probably
When's the
one of the
break?
first things that pop in your head.
Yeah, you're like, when's the break? When's the break?
When's the break? Let me check my phone and stuff like that. Okay, so for those who are watching and listening right now, and they're like, okay, how does your program work? How do we get started? Walk me through. And again, for those who are interested, I mean, I'm gonna have it in the show notes. I'll connect you guys with Dr. Avi. Look, he's pretty easy to find on social media, so you can always slide in his DMs in a professional way, guys and girls. In a professional way, slide in DMs in a professional way. But Avi, let me ask you this. So walk me through like how everything starts. Is like an intro course? Is there an advanced course? What if they want a little bit more of your time, man? Maybe what if the online component is like, this is not enough, man? Like, can I go eat some barbecue with this guy in Austin or something? Like, tell me about that. Tell me what the levels are, and so that our viewers and listeners can understand.
Totally. Yeah. So usually what I'll walk people through is like, if you just want something free and structured, right? I've got a couple free master classes that are on my website. And so those are like hour and a half trainings where I'll go over, different topics. So if someone's like, hey, I want to get started, I don't know where, I'll point them there. But if you're someone where you're just like, yeah, you know what, I'm ready. Like I want to dive in. I want to get this thing going. Then I point them in the direction of my aligner blueprint course. So that is the core curriculum. And that's what basically covers A to Z, everything you need to know to get started with and implement aligners. And so it's basically 10 video modules. They're all in bite-sized pieces. Comes out to about 4 hours of content. There's 4 hours of CE in there. You get your kind of starter resources to be able to implement it, like downloadables and stuff that you can share with your team. And then you also get access to a community. So any questions that you have, you can put them there. Then that's usually the first thing. And then what I'll do is when people are in and they get started, me and my team connect with them. And then we ask them, hey, if you're looking for more support, like if you want, for example, one-on-one like case reviews, then we do have something called Aligner Launchpad. And so that is where doctors get access to the dedicated case review portal. So let's say you have a case and you want someone to give you feedback. You just share the link to the case in there, give a little description about the patient, what you're having troubles with, what the goals are. And then we actually give you custom video feedback on that case. And so any follow-up questions you have, you just ask them in there. And then that's where we basically kind of hold your hand through that. And then on top of that, there's also like case acceptance training. So we go deeper in to just basically how to overcome objections, how to talk about price and stuff like that with patients. That's basically like, if you want to call it, our level 2. And then level 3 is something that I don't really like offer, but since we're on here, we can talk about it. I do have a component.
Does that include eating barbecue with you in Austin?
I mean, it's not included, but there's always a way to make that happen. There's always a way to make it happen. But yeah, the level 3 is pretty much all the above. Plus, I do like one-on-one quarterly sessions for a year. And I come up with a custom like 90-day action plan for the doc. So, everyone's different. Everyone's in a different situation. Some owners are struggling with getting their team on board. Some owners are struggling with, just, choosing a system and going from there. So that's kind of my way to really kind of give them the most customized support. And then they'll also get like a year of the case review portal and all that stuff. So anyone listening though, probably I would just point them in the direction of either the free training or blueprint. And then if you're not sure about all these other levels, don't worry about it. Like that's something that we can always talk about at a later time.
And, and I want to just follow up with that is, support and also just getting questions answered. Like that's such a bit important thing. And I think a lot of times when people feel like when they go through an online course, they're like kind of like on their own. How is it if they need some feedback from you or questions and whatnot? How does that work? Is that something like that they email you? Is that something that you have office hours, or how does that work exactly if they need more help?
Yeah, great question. So that is something that originally I was doing, kind of like a, monthly office hours. And I was excited for it, honestly, but the show up rate for it, just to be truthful, was terrible. Like barely anyone showed up for it. And so I was like, okay, maybe it's a time of day, and I tried different times and stuff because dentists are busy. But then I was like, what is the goal here? Like, what am I trying to achieve? And it was just like, I thought back to like when I had questions. It's like when I ask a question, like I don't want to have to wait for like a coaching call, in a couple of weeks. Like I want the answer to my question quick. So basically, you get access to the portal. You can download an app on your phone, or you can access it on your computer, and you just ask your question in there. And I've actually kind of built out a small team that helps me. Basically, once the questions are posted, we're notified, and then we go in, and then we're responding to you in the app. So nice. It's very streamlined, and we've gotten a pretty good feedback from that, just because docs just appreciate the fast response time. And I kind of pride myself on it, just because it is something that I think is a differentiator. I think other people have told me, I didn't realize, but other people were like shocked by how much access they had to me. For me, I'm just kind of like, I'm always going to be involved, in some shape or form with this. Granted, I know that like support is important. So for me to stand up here and tell you like, yeah, it's only me, like that does a disservice, I think, to the docs in the program. So yeah, I have an orthodontist and a general dentist right now that also help me field the questions. And so we all have, very similar philosophies. But this way docs get that, that you can call it hand holding, call it over the shoulder. This isn't live surgery. So like, you're not going to need to like duck out of the room and like get tips. Like it's just, you can ask a question, like we'll get back to you, within the day. So that's what's nice. But yeah, that's how it's structured with the support.
I love it. We'll definitely share that link with everyone, that free kind of like masterclass there, just to see, number one, just to see how Dr. Avi kind of like teaches and whatnot, and how he presents the material. But also, look, I mean, you're going to learn something, right? And in Nifty Thrifty, we love free. And speaking of Nifty Thrifty, look, I mean, first of all, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your story. Man, I learned a lot just listening to you. And if you don't even want to do clear aligners, if you're like, you just got on here like, okay, I just realized I don't want to do clear aligners, which you shouldn't be thinking of that. If anything, you should be intrigued by what Dr. Avi just talked about. If anything, you got some marketing tips there, man. All right, guys. I mean, you got some marketing, some high level marketing tips there. But speaking of being on the Nifty Thrifty podcast, and also me introducing you to our community, man, we want to know what the hookup is, right? Like we want to know. Like we want to know. You're part of the like. What can you do? What can you do for our viewers, our listeners, our group? What kind of like hookup can you give us? So we can start this journey or continue this journey on the clear aligner path.
Yeah, totally. So for any Nifty Thrifty doc, especially if you're using the links that Dr. Glenn shares, you're going to get, in addition to, the blueprint, you're going to get an additional training that we give. And it is, and it's on case acceptance, and it's how to overcome the top 5 objections. So when patients say stuff like, pricing is too expensive, I got to talk to my spouse, all that, I'm including into your enrollment that additional training. So, that's just my gift to the Nifty Thrifty community. Yeah, and that's
now let me ask you this.
That's how I'm trying to help you all hook it up.
Well, look, I'll tell you what. If anything, that hookup right there will actually going to help you. If it helps you sell a couple of extra cases, you pretty much took this course for free, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. We have it priced where it's like if you start one case, it pays for the whole program. Wow. So it's already a hookup to begin with, but the little extra training there is definitely to help take everything to the next level for you guys.
We love it. Okay, all right. So before we log off here, I want to ask you, what does the future hold for you in the clear aligner advisor? Like what are some new things that you're thinking about doing in the pipeline? Is there anything you can share with us? What's on the horizon for you?
Yeah. So the ultimate goal, like I said earlier, was just to make aligner education accessible for docs who are looking to start. That's goal one. Goal two is to be synonymous with aligner education. So like, I just, if someone thinks like about clear aligners, I want their very next thought to be like, okay, gotta go learn, with clear aligner advisor, Dr. Avi and the team. So those are pretty big goals, but I feel like I'm heading in the right direction. And then, in terms of what's on the horizon for us, I think continuing to connect with the dentists out there who are looking for this, because I feel like there's still, in my mind, a lot of work to be done. Because if someone who's listening to this podcast right now, if you didn't even know who I was, like that to me is a sign like, cool, I have more work to do and more people to connect with. But, yeah, I think the most exciting part is also just kind of, just serving the docs, as the questions come in, like finding ways to better serve them. But right now, I think we've iterated the program a bit over the last couple of years, and I'm really, really happy with where we're at right now, because docs that are getting in and docs that are truly implementing it and want to do this, they're finding success. And then to me, that just feels really good because I get to be a part of their journey of leveling up. So, yeah.
Love it. Thank you so much. Avi, thank you so much for jumping on. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you take advantage of the hookups that you're getting right there. At the very least, do the free mastery course just to see what you're missing out. See how the course is presented, and if it's something that you want to take advantage of, he hooked you up with the case acceptance. That's actually going to pay for the course itself right there once you sell a bunch of cases. So, Dr. V, thank you for jumping on. Guys, thanks for tuning in. See you next time.